This episode is brought to you by Amazon. The holidays are here, and you know what that means? It's time to get your friends and family the gifts they deserve. Take the stress out of shopping with Amazon's great deals and low prices on a huge range of items from toys to tech and much more. Whoever you're gifting for, Amazon has great prices on everything you need this holiday season. Shop Black Friday week starting November 21st.
This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. So much of your personal info is out of your control, like your insurance provider that has your social security number and your favorite retailer that has your payment details. If they get breached, your information, your identity, is vulnerable. That's why LifeLock monitors millions of data points a second for threats. If your identity is stolen, they'll fix it, guaranteed or your money back. Save up to 40% your first year at LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
Subscribe today on Apple Podcasts, Patreon, or by searching The Murder Diaries ad-free on Spotify. For $2.99 a month, you get to listen ad-free, and we added a special series called Journal Entries, where you can get to know me and Natalie a little bit better. Every subscription helps our podcast continue to work with families, victims, and keeps the Murder Diaries content coming. Once we get 500 subscribers, we'll be moving from 2 episodes a month of the Journal Entries series to 4. So get excited and subscribe today. Welcome back to the Murder Diaries. I'm Paige.
And I'm Natalie.
Gretchen Fleming was a 27-year-old woman still trying to find her way in the world. After breaking up with her boyfriend, she was living with her paternal grandparents near Parkersburg, West Virginia, when she went missing on December 3rd, 2022. A creative, free spirit, Gretchen was an aspiring musician and writer. She was last seen leaving a bar called My Way with a man with white hair more than twice her age. Described as being highly intoxicated, she left behind her purse, which included her phone and credit cards. It would be several days until Gretchen was reported missing, and police have been unable to find her since. Friends and loved ones have held multiple vigils and searched surrounding areas, but she remains missing. Police executed several warrants to search the home and property owned by the man she was last seen with, but no arrests have been made. Her family holds out hope and just wants justice for their beautiful young daughter taken from them too soon. This is her story.
Used to think it's in my head, but I'm walking with the dead.
Gretchen Eve Fleming was born on Christmas Eve in 1994 in Warrenton, Virginia. She was premature, just weighing 3 pounds and 12 ounces. Thankfully, Gretchen was a fighter and gained strength. She had no lingering health issues despite her premature birth. She was raised primarily in Parkersburg, a town of just 30,000 people in West Virginia. Parkersburg is an industrial center with the major employers producing chemicals, plastics, and polymers. It's the hometown of a few pro football and baseball players, but otherwise it's a pretty nondescript, smaller town. Gretchen's father, David, said it's a town where, quote, everybody knows everybody, and they never locked the side door, and in another quote, never felt unsafe. Gretchen's parents divorced when she was just a young girl. She and her younger sister, Emma, were raised by their father, David. After the divorce, Gretchen and her sister were not as close with their mother, but did still stay in occasional contact with her. Her father, David, eventually remarried to a woman named Jennifer. Jennifer had 3-year-old twins of her own from a previous relationship, and the family soon grew with the addition of another child David and Jennifer had together. Gretchen was the oldest of all 5 children, and they became a happily blended family. Gretchen had just turned 14 when Jennifer entered her life. Not surprisingly, she didn't exactly welcome her with open arms, but the two eventually bonded and became close. David and Gretchen were always very close. They often spent time riding bikes, and even sometimes a tandem bike together. David would pedal and steer, while Gretchen just enjoyed the ride. Growing up, Gretchen was very involved playing sports and was active in her church. She had a flair for fashion and enjoyed going thrift shopping with friends and putting stylish outfits together. She was always very outgoing and social in school. Gretchen's uncle, Philip Fleming, said Gretchen was a bubbly little child. She was just a happy-go-lucky, always smiling and giggling, and walking around on her tiptoes. We used to call her Twinkle Toes. Her grandmother, Louise, said that's what Gretchen brought when she entered the room. She brought life. She brought passion. She brought joy, and she always knew how to make you smile. David says every time you saw her, she had a book in her hand and Doc Martens on her feet. Her longtime friend Jake said Gretchen didn't dress anything like everybody else. She always made a statement. She's so creative. Music is a big part of who she is. She's done all these different things. She's traveled. She's very well spoken. She used to be a writer and still does write. After graduating high school in 2013, Gretchen eventually moved to Raleigh, North Carolina, which had been a dream of hers. She studied political science at William Peace University and Shaw University. She hadn't quite figured out what she wanted to do yet, but was in the process of discovering it. Jennifer says she made great friends in North Carolina, and I didn't worry about her. David said she was just enjoying being a young, vibrant person. Gretchen started dating a guy she met there, and they moved back to Charleston, West Virginia together. He was from Charleston, and Parkersburg was only about an hour away, so the two felt very at home. The couple stayed together for about a year, but then broke up. The breakup was a bit of a surprise because at one point, they had even been serious enough to discuss getting married. Jennifer says, I don't really know why, but they went their separate ways.
Gretchen was 27 and really feeling a bit adrift. She ended up moving back home, and it wasn't exactly what she'd envisioned for herself. David put it pretty simply, saying she was kind of in a lost place when she moved back to Parkersburg.
Gretchen moved in with her dad's parents in nearby Vienna, West Virginia. She chose not to live with David and Jennifer to avoid the chaos of her siblings and step-siblings that were all still living at home. I think that's pretty understandable. Gretchen's grandparents were elderly and a bit more old school and set in their ways. They insisted that she'd be back home by 10 p.m. every night. If she tried to come home after then, the door would be locked and she wasn't allowed to come home until the next morning. Because of this, if Gretchen planned on staying out late, which was fine, she's an adult, she would just sleep over at a friend's house. She did this often, and sometimes for an entire weekend, or even longer. Her friends would take her to work or wherever she needed to go. She always carried a big bag with her clothes and belongings that she would tote around when she couch surfed and stayed at the friends' houses in these instances. Gretchen not only didn't drive, but she didn't have a license. Jennifer said when she asked Gretchen why she didn't have a license, Gretchen said she saw no point and said, I can just Uber or go with friends. She got a job working at an H&M department store at the nearby Grand Central Mall until she figured out what she wanted to do. As she thought about it, she came up with that maybe someday she would want to be a flight attendant. She started researching what she would need to do to become one. Sadly, around this time, Gretchen's biological mom passed away unexpectedly. Being the oldest of her mom's children, Gretchen was the one who had to decide when it was time to take her off life support. As you can imagine, this was a very emotional time for her and something that upset her deeply. The last time her dad saw Gretchen was Thanksgiving night 2022. They had a large family get-together with about 50 people. David was starting a new job as a middle school wrestling coach and was going to be out of town after Thanksgiving. On December 5th, David texted her at 3:42 p.m., Hey Gretchen, just checking in, been busy with the new job, but I'm back in town if you're around. No reply. He texted her again on December 8th. Are you free to talk this weekend? No reply. David found this odd because she was always good about responding to his text messages. Even if her phone was dead, she would eventually write back and apologize for the delayed reply as soon as it was powered back on. The two spoke frequently, both on the phone and through text. On December 9th at 6:32 p.m., he texted her, Hey, how are you? How's work? On December 11th, 22, Gretchen's grandmother came to David's house to tell him she was concerned because she hadn't seen Gretchen since December 3rd, which is when she dropped her off at work. It was a Saturday, and Gretchen told her she would not be home that night because she was going out with friends and wouldn't be meeting that 10 p.m. curfew. For a few days, Gretchen's grandmother didn't think or worry too much about it because, again, it wasn't unusual for Gretchen to be staying with friends for extended periods of time before coming back home. But by Thursday, she began to worry, and by Sunday the 11th, she decided something was wrong and went to talk to David about it. Gretchen's friend Jake said the investigation right from the start lost 10 days. I'm 28 years old and I don't talk to my parents every day, you know? So, it happens. Gretchen's dad tried calling her phone, but it went straight to her voicemail. Panic started to set in. He and Gretchen's stepmom decided to drive around town and show Gretchen's picture to people to see if anyone had seen her over the last few days. One of the first places they went to look for her was Front Row Sports Bar and Grill on Emerson Avenue, which was one of Gretchen's favorite hangouts. The bartender remembered her and said that she'd been there that weekend. What's more is that a friend had later come back and dropped Gretchen's purse off at the bar. Supposedly, this friend did this in hopes that once Gretchen realized her purse was missing, she might retrace her steps back to the bar. David asked the bartender if he could see the purse. When he opened it, he found Gretchen's phone, tablet, ID, credit card, and other personal items. David and Jennifer charged her phone and tablet, and when they turned it back on, it was clear Gretchen had not contacted anyone since December 3rd. David said, "I'm thinking in my head, this wasn't just a missing persons case. Something bad happened."
David and Jennifer jumped right in, scrolling through Gretchen's phone contact list and calling all of her friends to see if anyone had heard from her. Sadly, the answer was no. No one had seen her since December 3rd. Then the bartender chimed in, saying he remembered Gretchen leaving the bar with a guy. Her friends backed that up too, saying they heard she and this guy were headed to the My Way Lounge and Restaurant on Juliana Street for karaoke night. Sounds like a fun night, but it also raised a lot of questions.
When you think about a successful business, like Only Murders in the Building star Selena Gomez's Rare Beauty, sure, you think about an in-demand product that's high quality, that has scary good marketing, but an often overlooked secret is actually a business behind the business, making selling and buying simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. Nobody does selling better than Shopify, home of the #1 checkout on the planet and the not-so-secret secret with Shop Pay that boosts conversions up to 50%. This means way less carts going abandoned and way more sales going. So if you want to grow your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell wherever your customers are scrolling and strolling. On the web, of course, in your store, in your feed, and everywhere in between. It's no secret that the businesses that sell more sell on Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout that Rare Beauty uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/murderdiaries, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/murderdiaries to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/murderdiaries. Gretchen's friend John had driven them both there. The DJ at My Way confirmed Gretchen had been there that Saturday night, December 3rd, with a guy he only knew as John. John was not someone David or Jennifer knew. David and Jennifer went to the police station and reported Gretchen missing the next day, December 12th, 2022. Right off the bat, the Parkersburg Police Department took Gretchen's disappearance very seriously. They started their investigation by calling local hospitals and shelters to see if Gretchen was there. Shocker, she wasn't. The officers were rightly concerned about the length of time that Gretchen hadn't been seen or heard from, and that she didn't have her purse or cell phone with her. Chief of Police Matthew Board said after a conversation, it was agreed upon this would be an all-hands-on-deck kind of circumstance. One of the things the police did was scour Gretchen's social media pages. They also checked to see if any of their officers had pulled her over or received any emergency calls from her since December 3rd. No one had. Chief Board said you have a young girl that nobody's heard from, nobody has seen, no social media activity. Things of that nature are very concerning. Finding Gretchen is paramount to anything else. That's what we're focused on. Gretchen's picture and physical description were posted on the Parkersburg Police Facebook page. Within a day, thousands of people had shared the post with others. At a vigil for Gretchen a few days before Christmas, not long after she disappeared, a friend, Megan, read a personal letter for Gretchen. She read, "I just want to speak to Gretchen. Thinking about you this week has brought back so many great memories from being a teenager. You taught me so many cool things, but the most important thing was how to be myself." Chief Board again says there are so many people behind the scenes at the Parkersburg Police Department that have really just essentially not gone home since we found out Gretchen wasn't home. If you hear anything, if you see anything, if you have a recollection, don't hesitate to reach out to us, because what might seem minor to you all might be what we need to help bring Gretchen home. Jennifer said that they're thankful for the community's continued support, including money from the GoFundMe that was used to create missing signs. A billboard on Murdoch Avenue was donated to the Fleming family free of charge by Hicks Outdoor Advertising. Gretchen's friend Jennifer, not to be confused with her stepmother, said, "It's pretty scary. When I heard the news, there was sort of a knot in my stomach. Now that this many days have passed, it feels a little unreal. I think when we first heard about it, I sort of hoped that she might pop up. She might reach out to someone." Gretchen is between 5 feet and 5 feet 2 tall and weighs between 100 and 120 pounds. She has brown hair and brown eyes. You can see a picture of the beautiful Gretchen on our Instagram post. Witness statements continue to confirm Gretchen left My Way with John. Chief Board says witnesses at the bar had been extremely cooperative with police from the onset of the investigation. After seeing all of the social media posts about Gretchen, John reached out to police. He spoke with Detective Zimmerman. John said that he and Gretchen started their night off at Front Row and then moved on to My Way. Gretchen left her purse and phone in his car and never brought it into My Way. Later, he was looking for Gretchen but couldn't find her. He searched around the downtown area and then went back to My Way. He never found her, so he eventually gave up and he went home. Because he didn't know where she lived, he returned her purse to Front Row, since that was where she went most often. So if you haven't picked up on it, John is the friend who returned the purse to My Way that we spoke about earlier on in the episode. Jennifer and David said John was clearly concerned and they don't think he had anything to do with her disappearance. David said, "John, I know he didn't have anything to do with it. I've spoken with him. He was just as freaked out as I am as a father because he was the one that took her there. I know he felt a lot of responsibility in it because she didn't leave with him. John has been nothing but cooperative with authorities." The My Way Lounge contacted David through Facebook on December 13th, 2022, and offered to let him watch their surveillance footage from the night Gretchen went missing. David took them up on their offer, and he and Jennifer went on their lunch hour to view the tape. The footage showed Gretchen sitting by herself at the end of the bar. John was sitting a few seats down from her, talking to other people. A man is seen coming out of the gambling room and stands beside Gretchen before buying her a drink. They talk, then go into the gambling room for about 30 to 45 minutes. At this point, Gretchen appears to be heavily intoxicated and likely not in the best decision-making frame of mind. They can then be seen leaving together around 3 a.m., with Gretchen walking right behind him. In a case of unfortunate timing, John went to the restroom and was in there at the exact time Gretchen exited the gambling room with the unknown guy and left. So John never saw her leave, and she never told him she was going. The footage also shows John looking for Gretchen in the bar before he left. The camera showed Gretchen and the man heading toward the northern parking lot, which is out of reach of My Way's cameras. The next thing the surveillance system caught was a black Nissan Rogue sports SUV driving away. The vehicle had a missing license plate, a Pittsburgh Penguins license plate cover, an OBX sticker on the upper right side of the back window, and Darth Vader stickers on both sides. The unknown guy she left with was named as a person of interest by the police. Although they've never released his name, multiple sources have identified him as a 55-year-old we will call P. This person of interest is not someone familiar to Gretchen's family. There is no evidence to show that the two knew each other before that night. He was also not a regular at My Way, although he had been in a few times before. My Way Lounge bartender Jessica said, "When we hear about something like this happening, it just strikes you right to the soul because you're like, I was just with her, or I just talked to her. Like, how could something like this happen this way? And then when you hear terrifying stories come up about this person that she was last seen with, and just things keep coming to light and people talking about it through the bars, and it's just crazy. It really is." The lounge, just a 2-minute drive from the riverfront, has added additional security cameras since Gretchen's disappearance to better protect their customers. P, who had previously gone by the name Daryl, was a former law enforcement officer with multiple different departments in West Virginia over a 12-year span. There are differing stories on why he decided to change his name. Some believe he wanted to distance himself from his father, while others believe he did because of his employment issues. You see, his career ended with a stint at the Bellington Police Department in Barber County. He is also the divorced father of a teenage daughter. Jennifer, trying to understand Gretchen's thinking about leaving with P, said, "It's late into the hours of December 3rd, December 4th morning. She knew she couldn't go to Nana's. Hey, I can give you a ride to a friend's house, or if you want to sleep on my couch, you can." Police have not released the CCTV footage from My Way because the investigation is still active. Police questioned P in the early mornings of December 13th, 2022. He admitted that he and Gretchen did leave Maia together. He said he dropped her off in the downtown area of Parkersburg. Where he dropped her off or any other related details have not been released to the public. Again, because it's an active investigation. A group of people were assembled to canvass downtown to see if there were any witnesses to confirm P's story or to find any other clues related to the case. Police Chief Matthew Board said, "It's our job to find out what did happen, not what might have happened." They also studied surveillance footage to track P's movement on December 4th after Gretchen got in the car with him. Was seen turning down an alleyway, leaving Maia. He was spotted at a nearby gas station, then driving towards Southside Parkersburg. Police studying the footage were also looking for any signs of Gretchen in the car or the car stopping to let her out at any point. David said, "Just numb, upset, angry, frustrated, I think is the big word. Just the unknowing and deciphering in my head of what could have happened and just trying to find an end to it." Parkersburg has lots of wooded areas and a fishery bridge that goes over Little Kanawha River. The river flows west and joins the Ohio River. Those areas were also canvassed. Gretchen was never seen getting out of his car on any of the surveillance cameras or when the surrounding areas were searched.
Police believe that was traveling in the direction of his home. Detective James Zimmerman said, "A lot of the statements he gave us that evening were inconsistent with the surveillance that we collected." I do think it's important to note that not much else has been released about this footage in order to maintain the integrity of the investigation.
Gretchen's dad said the last person she walked out of the Maia lounge with was P, and she hasn't been seen yet since. Due to the circumstances, authorities were able to get warrants based on probable cause. On December 15th, 2022, search warrants were served for P's house on Division Street, his car, and a nearby storage building he was renting. 3 teams were put together to execute those warrants. It was not revealed what evidence was collected, but there was some, and it was sent to the state police lab for analysis. Chief Board says the investigation has not slowed down. There are people dedicated specifically to this case. And as I said, the holidays didn't slow that down. Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, still working. So it has not slowed down with time at all. If anything, it's gaining speed. Jennifer took matters into her own hands and started looking into P herself. She learned that he was working as a food delivery driver. She said once people started talking about him on social media, she never saw anything positive. According to Jennifer, some women were complaining that he really creeped them out and was almost stalking them at some point. Gretchen's dad said Pete would get women's phone numbers from delivering food, then contact them and make inappropriate advances towards them. One of our good friends had to stop ordering because he was texting her inappropriately. Most delivery apps allow for people to communicate with the driver during an order, and that's what it sounds like was happening. He would contact them before closing out the order after delivering their food, or something to that effect. Jennifer's mom was talking to some girls at a local shop and discovered that they also had to stop ordering food because of P. They said he would come into the store and try to talk to them and text them. Another friend of Jennifer's was at a bar with him and woke up at his house with no clue how she got there. That woman has reached out since to Detective Zimmerman to tell him her story. Gretchen's dad says that there are multiple complaints against P for stalking women. He even went on to explain that P has had complaints for pursuing underage minors. Local news did a story on P and showed his house. Detective Zimmerman said that after that segment aired, tips came in from various people that had more bad experiences with him. David says, "I think as a family, we kind of feel helpless right now, and it's a big waiting game. So that's our bit of what we can do, is keep spreading her word, put signs out there, keep the reward out there. Let people know we're not giving up. This isn't going away. We're going to keep it in the forefront until we find answers and figure out what happened to her." Detective Zimmerman said they still need to be careful with what information is released to the media, and that it's important to remember P is innocent until proven guilty. That's why we're choosing not to use his name today.
So far, no one's been charged in Gretchen's case, including Detective Zimmerman has said that they still don't have any evidence to suggest that Gretchen is deceased. But whenever a body is found in the area, they make sure to reach out for more information to see if it might be her. It's a tough situation, and the investigation is still very much ongoing.
David said, the police are doing everything in their power. They're working around the clock. So I know there's some speculation out there that maybe they're not doing enough. But believe me, these guys are not sleeping. They're working 24/7 to find details on that one little clue that connects this all together so they can make it happen. Gretchen's family also provided her dental records to police. A Parkersburg police lieutenant said, "It's important that we have those items in the unfortunate circumstances she's located deceased." In January of 2023, Gretchen's younger sister Emma came across a news report that human remains were discovered in the Ohio River on Scheller Lane in Elm Grove, Ohio. This is just about 2 hours from where Gretchen disappeared. Emma was rightfully worried sick that the remains could have been Gretchen's. Gretchen's family became very upset, and it made them all sick to their stomachs. The remains were taken to Kepner Funeral Home, where a medical examiner performed an investigation. Ohio County Sheriff Tom Howard told the local Fox affiliate that officials were led to the suspected human remains after they got a call from another department regarding a missing person. Detective Zimmerman immediately went to the site to find out why local authorities hadn't contacted him. It turned out that the remains were not Gretchen's. It's just another example of the emotional roller coasters family of missing people go through. Jennifer said, "I sent the reporter a really nasty email. We have other children. We have aging parents. We don't need even more stress in our life because you want a story." Also around this time, in January 23, a tip came in that Gretchen might be at the bottom of a 20-foot deep well in Ravenswood, West Virginia, about 40 minutes away. Authorities searched the area for a week. The well was drained and a city engineer lowered a camera down into the well. The surrounding woods were also searched. Detective Zimmerman said that they could not place Gretchen there and were comfortable crossing it off their list. The next month in February, a community search was put together in Mount Wood Park, which is not far from P.'s home and about 30 minutes east of Parkersburg. Over 500 people helped cover a lot of ground. Gretchen's dad says everybody genuinely cared. The whole community showed up. Everybody wanted to help. It was very overwhelming. I couldn't keep the tears out of my eyes. Various items were collected, but none, Detective Zimmerman said, had anything to do with P or Gretchen.
As of this recording, no arrests have been made and Gretchen is still missing. Jennifer said, "Still a very active investigation. The police haven't slowed down at all. They're moving faster and faster as more information comes in."
Gretchen's friend Jake said, "I truly do believe they're doing everything that they can. We need to let the police do their job. We don't want to tamper with any future evidence." David says, "Just putting the word out there that it can happen to any family, and you really just have to pay attention to be aware of your surroundings. I never thought we'd be going through this." Detective Zimmerman says, "Although we haven't been able to release a lot of detailed information in regards to this case, it's still very active. I want the public to know that. We are still currently working this case." He adds, "Based on all the information we gathered with this case, surveillance, and witnesses' statements, I can confidently say that P is a person of interest, and I believe he has more information in regards to Gretchen's disappearance. Unfortunately, he's stopped communicating with us." Parkersburg Police Chief Matthew Board says, "There's not a day that goes by that she and her family are not on my mind and the minds of the men and the women of the Parkersburg Police Department. Detective Zimmerman comes in every day, and that's still his priority. This is not something we give up on. This is not something we lay down or put to the side or go back to business as usual. It's still at the forefront, and we're still working hard." Gretchen's grandmother said, "I just try to keep her face out in the public so no one will forget about her. So they'll keep praying and keep trying to remember something, the slightest little thing that would lead us to an arrest or finding her." Sadly, her grandmother passed away in June of 2024 at the age of 78, without ever living to see any resolution of Gretchen's disappearance.
Gretchen's dad said, "We love her. Something happened to her. I don't know what to say. She's an amazing little girl. I just want her home."
There is still a $100,000 reward for information leading to the return of Gretchen Fleming and the arrest and conviction of anyone involved in her disappearance. Anyone with information about this case is asked to call the Parkersburg Police Department at 304-424-8444. Anonymous tips can be left online at ppd.parkersburgwv.gov.
That wraps this week's episode. Don't forget to connect with us on social media at the Murder Diaries Pod. We're everywhere. You hear this all the time. TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, even YouTube. We'll see you next week. Same place, same time. And until then, stay safe. Bye.
The search for truth never ends. Introducing June's Journey, a hidden object mobile game with a captivating story. Connect with friends, explore the roaring 20s, and enjoy thrilling activities and challenges while supporting environmental causes. After 7 years, the adventure continues with our immersive travels feature. Explore distant cultures and engage in exciting experiences. There's always something new to discover. Are you ready? Download June's Journey now on Android or iOS.